Hi everyone. Okay, now hopefully everybody can see this. I'm not sure if I can see your comments at the same time. So we're going to leave the comments towards the end. Okay, just double checking. And then we're going to make a start. Okay. Right. So, to start off with then, today is about the CSSE applications and percentages and things that you would require to make sure that your child stands a chance, a good chance, at getting their place in a CSSE school. So, just a little bit about myself first. I own Coach 11 Plus, and it's a tutoring and a coaching service. I am a Bachelor of Engineers in Software Engineering as my background. And I got a PGCE in primary education after that, and I've had that for over 12 years of teaching. As I said, I'm a coach and tutor for the 11 Plus. I've been doing this for the last 10 years, so lots of experience, not just CSSE, but also with CEM and GL. But above all, which I think is really important for you all, I'm a mum, okay? I'm a mum to 3 children. I've got 2 who are already in grammar schools, and I've got 1 left to go. So I know what you're going through. I know what your issues are going to be. And Sabah has really given me a great opportunity to be part of the 11 Plus journey. I have been helping a lot of the parents here with some of their questions and things like that, and Sabah wanted to give me the platform to help you, go a bit further, basically. Again, another mum with kids in a great school. So we're just trying to help you guys as parents. We're trying to help other parents. So I'll move you on from there. The CSSE schools. We've got 10 schools, okay, that are part of the consortium. There's the Colchester County High School for Girls, the Colchester Royal Grammar, what we often call KEGS, the King Edward, Shrewsbury High School, Southend for boys and girls, St Bernard's High School for girls, St Thomas More for boys, Westcliff for boys, and Westcliff for girls. Now, the beauty of the CSSE consortium is you have the opportunity of getting your child into these schools just by sitting 1 exam. And I think that, in itself is a biggie, because you do all of this preparation and, at the end of the day, the preparation that you're doing, just 1 exam opens up the doors and opportunities for your child to get into a lot of very good schools. Moving you on, the exam itself, it's broken down into 2 papers. We've got the English paper. It is 70 minutes long, 10 minutes reading time, comprehension is 30 minutes, applied reasoning is 10 minutes, and the continuous writing is 20 minutes, giving you a total of 60 marks maximum. Now, although they have said this, the timing is not set for each section. So this creates great flexibility for the child to spend more time on an area where they're able to pick up more marks. For example, if they felt that they are about to lose the marks in applied reasoning and they really can't figure out those 5 marks, then rather than wasting 10 minutes on that, they could apply an extra 5 minutes to their continuous writing and very easily pick up extra marks there. Because don't forget, the continuous writing is worth 15 marks. So, in that way, or if they found that the comprehension part they find much easier, they want to ensure that they're answering the questions in a much lengthier way, they could concentrate more there. But they do need to keep an eye on the time. While I'm speaking about the English, I will say one thing. A lot of children lose marks here in the English paper because they don't understand what the mark scheme is. So it's very important that when you're marking, make sure that you show them what is giving them those marks. It's not the typical English which is taught in a standard school that, if it's giving me 2 marks, then let me talk about 2 things. No, it's going to be, okay, I'm going to give you 1 mark for the correct answer, and 1 mark is going to be for the SPAG, the spelling and the grammar. It has to be a correctly formed sentence. So your child needs to be able to see that, okay, it's a 3-mark question. They're asking for 2 things, and 1 of those marks is going to be for the SPAG. Okay, so they don't want to lose those SPAG marks. The second part of the paper, which they normally give after at least a 10 to 15 minute break, is the mathematics. Again, it's a 60 marker. They have 60 minutes to do this. Questions have been varying over the years between 18 and 23 questions. They always have multiple parts for some of the questions. So it's very important to make sure, it's not 23 questions and 60 marks. No, there's lots of parts, and they love to use reasoning, and for you to be able to assess that, okay, if I get part A right, I need that answer for part B. I need the answer for part C, and then I need C for part D. Okay, so they need to understand how I can do it. Now, a lot of tutors start teaching very high-level maths at this point, which actually the children don't need. There are tricks in place which children need to recognize. So they don't have to work harder, they have to work smarter. Okay, so that's something that I like to do a lot with the kids in my groups, where we work through the paper and I show them how you're supposed to be doing the working out, and they understand that it's not the long method. It's about recognizing what was there, what are the key things there. A question which I know everyone, when they think about the CSSE, is standardization. What does that mean? How's that going to affect my child? Please don't assume that the weightings for both the papers is the same. It's not, okay? The weighting is not the same. Although the marks are both out of 60, the English paper, once standardized, uses a very special formula which gives them a higher number of points. So the English actually weighs heavier. So you really need to make sure that we're not just pushing the math, because it's one of the things that us parents do. We do tend to maths, push the math because it's going to be a yes or no, you can't get it wrong. But don't do that. You do really need to focus on the English here, because that's what's going to get you the higher points. Okay, so when they standardize the paper, it's about getting a higher mark in the English, at least above 40 out of that 60. Okay, so at least above 40 out of that 60. Now, once that part of the standardization is done, included in that formula is the age standardization. Okay, and that's part of the formula. The difference between a September child and a July child with the same raw score can be anything between 10 and 12 additional points for the younger July child. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but to be fair, it is what it is. And in years and years of teaching and having children of my own, which are one's a September and one's a May child, there has been a difference in their maturity. Sometimes I feel like it is quite a big stretch, but it's something that we can't control. So that is something that is in place here. And the reason I say 10 to 12 points is depending on whether you got the higher mark in the English or the maths. To give you an example, a September child who scores 45 out of 60 in the English paper and 45 out of 60 in the maths paper will actually score approximately a point score of 355. Whereas a July child with exactly the same raw score, the 45 and 45 out of the 60, will get about 365. Now, if that July child had, let's just say, 46 in the English and 44 in the maths, it wouldn't just be a difference of 10. You're looking at another 11 or 12. Okay, so that's how they differentiate. Now, what I've done is I've put the link to the formula and all of their previous year's worth of bands. The link is here. You'll be able to find all the raw scores historically, the score bands, so it's all part of the CSSE website, but I know for some parents navigating that website and knowing where to look is the tricky part. So what I've done is I put the link up straight to the Freedom of Information, which has the historical bands. One of the key things, and I can't stress it enough, please read the registration guide really well. I know everyone's applied and the child's going to sit the exam, but that doesn't mean that they've read the registration guide really well, okay? There are open days on there for each school. So even if it's a school that you hadn't even possibly thought of, and maybe are double-minded about, it is worth visiting a school. And I say this to all of my parents, go to the schools, take a child with you. The reason you should do this is because you will see where your child fits best. Because you may be thinking in your head, oh no, all I want is kegs, or all I want is Colchester Royal Grammar or Colchester Girls. But when your child goes there and they visit the schools, they may find actually they don't like it, and there's going to not be anything that you can do to change their mind because they don't see themselves fitting there. And that's really, really important for the child to want to go there, to do the rest of the work, to go through these summer holidays with the absolute aim that actually, you know what, I really like this school and this is where I want to go and I'm going to put the work in for it. So definitely go to the open days. If you have missed an open day, if your child scores high enough for entrance to that school, they will be offered the opportunity after results day. They will be given dates where they can come and visit the school again if they're interested in applying. Okay, so all is not lost. If you have missed an open day, you will have the opportunity, if your child has got the score, to go see it again. In that registration guide, you've also got the number of spaces that are available at that school. And there's also a form to order the latest test papers. They have got free papers all the way from I think 2015 to 2019 are on their website. Definitely do those first to ease your child in. Don't expect them to do the 2022 paper and know it straight away. No, it will just throw them. So my advice is that you start off with the easier papers, and they are easier in level. They have progressively got harder. And slowly get them to do one, correct it so they know where they're going wrong, and then do the following year. And each year as it gets harder, because they're correcting their bigger mistakes, they're not going to make the same mistakes in the following paper. So by the time they get to 21 and 22, the last 3 years worth of papers, do them as many times as you can. Make sure they've got a really sound understanding of the topic areas that are being tested, and that they know all the shortcuts on how to get there. Now the test itself, especially maths, it stays very similar each year. It progressively only gets about 10% harder, and only about 25% of the paper changes. Now you imagine you already know how to do 75% of that paper at 100%. You know it inside out. You have a very good chance of getting a very high mark on that paper. With the English, we always know it's going to be classic literature for CSSE. They have never used a modern text. Okay, so it is very worth doing. Lots of books which have got classic literature in them. There are some great people out there with great material. So definitely, buy some classic literature texts and do those papers. Don't forget that the spaces that they're talking about on the registration guide are in total. That's including inside and outside catchment. Okay. Now they only allow a certain percentage for outside catchment for those schools. Not all of them, and I will tell you which ones in a minute. But if you are outside the 12-mile catchment, and you can go on their website, You can put in your postcode and you can check where you are, because sometimes you may possibly be on the borderline if you are anywhere near Brentwood. But if you're outside that 12-mile catchment, you will be classed out of catchment. And you need to be roughly in the top 50 and just over the green bands. Okay? That's where you're looking for. That's the score guide. Okay? That does not mean that if you're on a yellow, that your child does not stand a chance, because every year the movement is very different and it can fluctuate up to 5%. So if we were trying to get last year's bands, for example, and we wanted to, 380 as outside catchment for kegs, that does not mean that 375 will not get in. It just means it might be possibly on a waiting list. Now, some of the schools, Colchester schools, the Royal Grammar and Colchester Girls, as well as Thomas More, they are super selective. What that means is you do not have a catchment, which is brilliant, because that means you are competing with everyone, okay? And you have a higher chance of getting in, okay? I know a lot of parents think, okay, Colchester's so far. I know a lot of people running a lot of services in various places, and the children are very happy. So it's something that as a family, it's a family decision. You need to go visit again, have a look, see how it fits, think about the travel, think about transport that's close by. Will your child be able to come back on their own if they ever had to as they get older? Because you will make them. They will join clubs, and you just want them to be able to do something that they're able to come back, or that you can carpool with some of the parents. So those are the kind of things that you want to consider when making those choices. What I've done here is, and I will share this. I will upload this PowerPoint up for everyone. So you don't need to copy it up too much. You will be able to have access to these. But honestly, start writing any of the questions you may have down, and after the PowerPoint, I will address those. Over here, this is the cutoff sheet. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone's got access to last year's cutoff sheet. You can either scan this barcode, the QR code, with your phone, and it will take you directly to the website, or you can click on the link, whichever one's easier for you, what you find easier. So that's for you to be able to see the bands. And the reason I'm going to talk about these bands now. So, what percentage do you need to get in? Now, a lot of people don't understand this, because they get thrown as soon as they see that I need 345, 375. What does that mean? How am I going to get there? What does my child need to get? So this is going to address those kind of questions. Now you know from that score, the banding sheet, what they need approximately. And just to give you an example, Southend Boys for School, for example, if you are in priority area, you need to have in catchment above just the pass mark, and the pass mark for CSSE is 303. If your child gets 303 and above, it's a pass. Okay, it does not mean they're going to get a place. They could possibly, if they are in catchment, but out of catchment, this is where things become a little bit difficult. Okay, so for Southend Boys, if you're in catchment, above 303 is great, and you've got, quite a solid chance, 100% chance of getting in there. Whereas if you're out of catchment and you're considering Southend Boys, you're looking at a score of above 337. However, something along the lines of 330 will still offer your child to get a place. Okay? So these are the kind of things that you need to consider when you look at the banding. But then you're going to sit there and think, okay, well, you know what? My child really liked Southend. What do I require? Or my child really liked kegs. So now I'm going to teach you how to work that out. So this is taken from years and years of historical data and working out the different standardizations. It's very tricky, but we've been doing it for so many years now that we're there. We are quite there now. Now, like I said, you know roughly now what score you need. Depending on the difficulty of the paper for that year and how the whole cohort actually done in general, the percentage can move up or down. And it only does this by a little bit, okay? So it could drop a little bit. The whole bands could drop a little bit if the paper was very tricky and overall everybody got a lower score. A lot of people have asked me for kegs, so I'll start off with kegs first. If you are inside catchment, you're looking at a score of about 345. If you are outside catchment, you are looking at a score of 375. Now these scores have been taken from the CSSE bands from last year. And what I'm going to do is using a September child first, because at the end of the day they don't hardly get any additional points. So their marks are going to be literally as they are, and they're not changed much, and they do need to really try to do their best in their English here. If you are an inside catchment child, you are a September born, you will need roughly about 65% for a comfortable place. For outside catchment, the same child will need to score 80% to get in comfortably. Okay? Now remember, a child with 80%, where the maths was higher than the English, will get a lower score overall than a child with 80% where their English was higher, even though the percentage is exactly the same. Okay? The score will be different because the weighting for the English is heavier. Now this might change about 3% either side. So, if the paper difficulty was a little bit, higher, and generally people didn't do as well, children didn't do as well, it could be that they get in with 75% or 78%. Okay? So there is that movement there. So don't be negative and don't give up. That's, it's a very key thing. So this is an approximate, give or take 3% either way. We always obviously try to aim for the higher percentage. As outside catchment generally requires 60 to 65% as a minimum for Southend schools, that's boys and girls, 65 to 70% for Westcliff, 65 to 70% for Colchester, and 75% plus for Kegs. So Kegs is the one that's a bit more tricky to get into. A lot of people decide last minute they don't want to be out of catchment, they want to be in catchment so that their child has a better chance of getting in. Now, that's not always going to be the case. Don't forget to be in the catchment before the school's deadlines. Every school has got a different deadline where they want you to be in catchment when you are applying. Some don't mind if you're doing it afterwards, if you can show them proof of purchase, or the fact that you've got a new rental agreement, or anything like that. But some schools, such as Kegs, they require you to be in catchment by the 1st of September of year 6. So that is before you actually do the exam. Okay? So if you are planning on moving, you have literally got exactly 30 days left. Okay? You've got 30 days left to move and be within catchment. Now, you've got to check the school's websites for the additional information like this. Not all of that information is on the CSSE website. If there's a particular school that you are very heavily invested in and you want your child to go there, please do look at their additional admissions information on their website. You will also be able to check on their websites what was the last score to get in previously on the waiting list. How far down have they moved on the waiting list? Kegg's website even has how many children per year make it through on a waiting list. So there's a lot of very good information on there. You do need to take the time to sit down and read through it. Okay, so I do highly recommend that. Now I'm going to stop my screen share here so that I can start taking